Acai has been called the blueberry of the Amazon. It's an intensely refreshing purple berry that grows in the Amazon River basin. Its electric purple color is nothing short of stunning atop a smoothie bowl, and it's become very popular to have acai in a smoothie bowl as a result. Acai, the name means fruit that cries. So this crying fruit is probably named because it's just so juicy. A sweet and juicy fruit that grows in the Amazon off of palm trees. It's in the Araceae plant family. There's a smoothie bowl with acai. Look at that purple color. Very inviting to eat. I don't have a picture of the whole tree here, but if I did, you'd see a palm tree here, um, which is the plant family that acai comes from. So the same plant family as dates and coconuts, and also the important herb saw palmetto. This thick, satisfying pulp from acai has an almost oily quality to it, and it is high in omega-3 fatty acids, which is given it a lot of attention. I'll note that blueberries are also high in omega-3 fatty acids, and acai is rich in nutrition and antioxidants. So let's see, it grows on the floodplains of the Amazon region, and it is an important food source to the people who live in the Brazilian state of Para. I don't know if I'm saying that name correctly. Hopefully I am. And here's a little close up of it. You can see it looks kind of similar in size to a blueberry, but it has a much bigger seed than a blueberry does. Blueberry seeds are tiny. Acai seeds are pretty big, and so yeah, their intense purple color comes from anthocyanins, the same antioxidant that occurs in red cabbage and eggplants, or also known as aubergine. And so there is a close-up of this, of the dried fruit. You can see that deep purple color looks pretty similar to an eggplant kind of color. So great, let's talk about the Ayurvedic uses of acai. Today's talk is sponsored by the Fundamentals of Ayurvedic Medicine 2-year clinical certification course in Ayurveda. And if you like today's talk, chances are you will like the course, because this is exactly the kind of information that we share in the course. When we learn about food and different parts of the body, tissues, organs, body types, we're going to use a very similar style of analysis, which is dovetailing between some of the Western medical or biochemical, organic biochemistry findings and the experienced felt effects of eating it that Ayurveda pays attention to come up with a rich, experiential, and insightful understanding of how to use food that will enable you to heal your body in a very intuitive fashion, but also in a very clinically accurate fashion. I think our school really excels in that analysis, that analysis that leads to intuition, right? If one sense, intuition is the fruit of thinking, right? The labor of thinking produces the fruit of intuition, and I think that's what you'll get at the Joyful Belly School and through Ayurveda's profound methodology. So looking at this deep purple here, we also want to note that many people claim acai tastes like a blend of berries and chocolate. I think their taste buds are very tuned in because acai has some of the same bitter tannins in them that chocolate does, and so it does have a similar flavor. It's also slightly sweet, tart, and astringent like a blueberry. So you can think of it as blueberry chocolate. If you've never tasted acai before, and if you haven't, I recommend you do because it is delicious. Um, there you go. There's a picture of chocolate, and both a nice, deep, rich color. And you see some of the cacao beans here. One of the questions is it better, right? Do we need to go to the Amazon to get this, or can we just get its properties from a blueberry? Well, I think that acai is a bit heavier and more satisfying than the blueberry. It also has more antioxidants in it than other berries found in the West. So we're coming up to the summer season, and that's why I chose to talk about acai right now, because it's something that we're going to start craving and we're going to start needing in our body as we move into early summer. So here in the southeast of the United States, I live in Asheville, North Carolina, in the mountains. It's already starting to get hot, and on those hot days, these antioxidant berries such as acai or blueberry or strawberry become really important to reduce inflammation and keep the body cool and refreshed. So think about starting to stock your fridge with berries. And you might even notice already some days on those hot days, if you're in the southern part of the country, that you're craving things like smoothie bowls. So in winter, we want the heavier starches and carbohydrates and proteins. But as we move into the summer months, we start to crave some lighter sugars in our food. And so you might notice cravings for fruit smoothie bowls as opposed to mashed potatoes, as people were probably craving last November. All right, yeah. So acai is high in antioxidants, and it's also high in omega-3 fatty acids, and that makes it very perishable. And that's why when you buy acai in this country, since it doesn't grow here, you are getting a frozen puree of acai, not the fresh berries, because they would perish on the journey. And yeah, so in the Amazon, acai berries are typically given to children at a very early age. Adults enjoy acai as a complement to fried fish. So that sounds in Ayurveda like a bad food combination to mix a fruit with a meat. So we have to look into that a little more. If there's some way that the acai is going to assist in the digestion of fried fish, like a pineapple, right? Pineapple is okay to eat with meats because it has natural protein digestive enzymes in it that aid digestion. But is that true for acai? I haven't heard so. So this sounds like could be a bad food combination. They also will combine the juice with cassava flour to make a kind of porridge. Now, cassava flour and blueberries, or cassava flour and acai, flour and a fruit, is also considered a bad food combination. But when you cook things together, that changes things. As opposed to eating them as a complement to fried fish, here we have it um, served in a porridge. So that would not be a bad food combination anymore. And just kind of like putting raisins in oatmeal and cooking them is not a bad food combination, even though fruits and oatmeal would be a bad food combination. All right, there's your smoothie bowl again. Nothing wrong with that. As you start to move into summer months, you're going to want the potassium that these bananas provide, the electrolytes, as well as these nice sugars that help your body when you're sweating through the day. If you're in an air conditioning environment, these cravings might not pop up. But if you're out in that hot sun, these simple sugars are going to rejuvenate you on a tough day. All right, good. We've got a bit of an overview. I even gave a little bit of a Western nutritional overview. Let's talk about how to use acai. Well, first of all, in Ayurveda, we're going to look at this as a cooling blood tonic and cleanser. Why? Well, this antioxidants are anti-inflammatory. What do antioxidants do? Antioxidants scavenge free radical oxygens in your in your body's normal metabolic process, and also whenever inflammation is prevalent, there's a lot of free oxygen sort of floating around in your body, and that is highly reactive. Right? Just think of what happens when oxygen reacts with a piece of wood. You get a fire, right? And so what these free oxygen radicals do, if they're floating around in our bloodstream, is that they tend to combine with some of our organic molecules in our body, and it disrupts them or changes them, and that causes damage to cells. Our body naturally has mechanisms to protect and ourselves against free radicals, but sometimes it does too much damage, and that's called oxidative stress. Antioxidants, on the other hand, are chemicals that can scavenge any of these free oxygen molecules that are floating around, and that's why antioxidants have become such a buzzword, because of the way they reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. There's just certain molecules that can absorb any extra oxygens that there are around, particularly polyphenols. And so a lot of acai's compounds are polyphenols, and that's where you may have heard of these terms, flavonoids, um, and or anthocyanins. If you do any research, you'll come across those words a lot. Whenever you see flavonoids, like in highly colorful food, they say to eat the rainbow, right? Whenever they're saying eat the rainbow, you're often getting these polyphenols and flavonoids. Not to get too deep into nutritional land, but these polyphenols and flavonoids are just a particular kind of chemical that can absorb oxygens, free oxygen, and that makes them very useful anti-inflammatories. And that's why eating the rainbow is often such a good idea. What does that mean, eating the rainbow? If you haven't heard that terms, it means eat really colorful foods: strawberries, blueberries, yellow squashes, green zucchinis. If your dish looks like it has a lot of bright colors in it, you're probably getting a lot of anti-inflammatory antioxidants. And acai certainly has a lot of color, as we noted earlier. All right, acai has blood supporting iron in it. So we have this anti-inflammatory that cools the blood, but also in a way strengthens the blood as we go with this iron. I mentioned that it reduces inflammation, and this tastes like dark chocolate. I said before that acai tastes like almost a blend of berries and dark chocolate. Well, that dark chocolate comes from bitter tannins that are literally, acai has the same bitter tannins that cacao has in it. And though that bitterness gives acai a gentle blood cleansing effect that blueberry doesn't have. So blueberry has antioxidants and some omega-3 fatty acids. It doesn't have that blood cleansing bitterness that that acai has. So that makes acai a bit more of a blood cleanser. Now, how does that work? Why are bitters a blood cleanser? Because if you attend these talks that we frequently give on food around once a month, you may have heard me talk about bitters being blood cleansers. Well, why are most bitters blood cleansers? Because the bitter taste stimulates gallbladder contractions and your liver to produce bile. And that process of producing and expelling bile ends up having a cooling, refreshing action on the blood that is anti-inflammatory. Why? Bilirubin, or some of the precursors of bile, are very hot, sharp, irritating substances. And when your liver produces that bile and the gallbladder expels it, you're kind of flushing hot, sharp compounds out of the blood and into your small intestine, and then you eliminate them naturally through the stools. So we're going to look to bitters to have this refreshing, cooling, getting rid of hot, sharp bile effect on the body and on the blood. And that's very helpful for all kinds of liver pathologies and high pitta, right? If you're fiery pitta, or if it's a fiery time of year like summer or early summer when your body is really dealing with the heat and hasn't yet figured out how to, or is still in the process of adapting to deal with heat, that heat can really cause pitta to spike up, and acai is the perfect remedy for that. So in April, we're in late April right now, and we're going to start shifting into May. We're having these berries to help keep our body refreshed and cool as our body contends with ever increasing heat of the season. And bitterness helps with that. The antioxidants help with that. And then acai has one more quality that is going to help you feel cool and refreshed, which is astringency. You might notice when you put acai in your mouth that your tongue gets a little rougher, almost a little bit like sandpaper. You'll notice this effect when you have beans or a green banana as well. If you eat a banana a little bit too early, you'll notice that your tongue feels a little bit like sandpaper. That's because astringency sort of tightens and tones the tongue, and that makes the surface of the tongue a little bit rougher. Well, that rough astringency ends up having a cooling effect because it restricts blood flow. And normally in the summer, your body and your pores and everything just start to open up and ooze as you sweat. And a person's face looks flushed and red in June, as opposed to in winter, a person's face may look pale. So this astringency, this natural tightening and toning, helps restore the skin from some of that excess heat that we see in the summer. 3 effects here. The bright color of acai is an anti-inflammatory. The bitterness is an anti-inflammatory, and the astringency also. So we have the cooling, clearing effects of acai. What's that going to feel like? That's going to feel like give you a soothing sensation. The sweetness, the coolness is going to be soothing. It's going to be refreshing. You're going to feel your eyes relax. The eyes and the liver are connected. And when you have an anti-inflammatory or something that cools the blood down, one of the easiest ways to tune into that and experience that is through a relaxing effect on the eyes. That's a wonderful feeling. It's like you're sitting underneath a shade tree and you finally get the relief from the heat. That is that kind of refreshment that acai will give to your body. So look for that when you start to eat these berries in early summer, and especially if you eat acai. I think acai is especially cooling. Well, the Amazon is especially hot. So acai must be counteracting the heat of the tropical Amazon with by being very cooling itself, by having these cooling compounds in it. Why does the plant make these bitter tannins? In the case of the bitter tannins that taste like cacao, the plant is making that to make the plant unpalatable to predators like birds. Well, humans happen to like the taste of chocolate, so I don't think it'll be unpalatable to you. I think most people find acai pretty delicious. That astringency that acai has, by the way, can also tone the bowels. So if as something makes a sort of tight, cooling sensation on the tongue, it can also do that in the colon. So this time of year, when the heat starts to make stools soft and even cause inflammation in the intestinal tract, these astringents can help keep the bowel toned and cool and reduce loose stools. We talked a little bit about why acai is a supportive liver tonic from the bitterness, the antioxidants, and also the astringency all help to reduce heat. That all supports the liver. And so yeah, and so in addition to these properties that directly cool the liver, the sweetness of acai is also supportive to the liver. The liver likes a little bit of sweetness. The liver likes a little bit of fat as well. That's why one of the most important ways to nourish an exhausted liver is with coconut oil, because the liver is calmed by a little bit of sweet and a little bit of fat. So when we have something sweet like acai, and even mixing a little bit of coconut oil into a smoothie with acai can be especially supportive to a vata liver. The kapha person is going to want to focus more on cleansing. The vata person is going to want to focus more on nourishing. So to cleanse the liver, a kapha person is going to blend bitters with acai. And to nourish, a vata person is going to blend coconut oil with the acai. And then they'll get the sweetness and all those anti-inflammatory compounds, as well as either the fat or the bitter to support whatever constitution you are. One of the big mistakes that vata people do, because it's such a buzzword, is that they cleanse their liver when they realize they have liver issues. And that's exactly the opposite strategy. Vata people need to nourish and build instead of cleanse and strip. Scientific studies show that acai, that the antioxidants in general reduce liver distress signals, such as the liver enzyme ALT. Acai is also really high in vitamin C, which we know as an immune stimulant, but also it's sour, right? That vitamin C in acai is the reason why acai is sour. Same reason why blueberries are sour. So when you have these sour, sub-sour fruits, you should expect to find high vitamin C, ascorbic acid. All right, good. Some other properties of acai that you might not have known. It's an antiviral, which is nice. It also has some potential for treating cancer. It seems to prevent tumor cell overgrowth, and it's pro-apoptotic. So apoptosis is natural cell death. Your cells are supposed to listen to your body and self-destruct when your body tells them to. But in cancer, the cells stop listening and they proliferate out of control instead of going through normal apoptosis. Well, acai helps regulate and restore apoptosis, and that can prevent tumor cell overgrowth. So there's some promise there or some hope there that acai might be beneficial for cancer. And of course, the anti-inflammatory compounds are beneficial for cancer. Polyphenols generally, which is the kind of antioxidant that acai has, is good for cancer. In traditional Amazonian medicine, acai's antiviral properties are acknowledged and used for viral and bacterial-borne diseases like flu, cough, fever, and malaria. What is fever? What is malaria but a very pitta disorder, right? High fever in malaria. And acai is very cooling, so a cooling antiviral that can be helpful for malaria. Now, you don't always want to cool a fever. Sometimes you want to sweat out a fever, right? And you want to heat up and aid the body with a mild fever. But if you're getting a severe fever, as you would in malaria, then you got to keep your body a little bit cool. Here's another surprising fact of acai is that even though it's sweet, it does not spike blood sugar. So it's safe for diabetes. Acai is sweet and has this sort of gentle sweetness, not overpowering. It has the rich fatty acids, but it has a lot of fiber in it. And it's the fiber that's the key to balancing blood sugar. Because acai is so high in fiber, it reduces fasting glucose and insulin, and also helps keep you satisfied longer. If you eat a candy bar, right, you're going to get hungry pretty soon afterwards because there's no fiber in a candy bar. But if you have the simple sugars in acai with the ample fiber that it has, you won't get the sugar high or the sugar crash. Instead, it will be more balanced. And also just generally polyphenols help with the processing of carbohydrates and keeps glucose levels low. All right, there's some speculation that acai may reduce cholesterol due to sterols in it. All right, good. So let's summarize what we've seen. We have a cooling, refreshing, hydrating fruit that is anti-inflammatory, that helps with the liver, that has these special qualities that we can't necessarily taste and experience, which are its cancer fighting and antiviral properties. The cooling nature, we can experience that. We can experience its bitterness, its sourness, its juiciness. But these special effects that it's antiviral and anti-cancer are ones that we more or less have to discover through clinical trials or in the lab. And so acai has some expected qualities that we know through the five senses. And then it has some other clinical properties that we can find through experience. It's going to pacify vata because it's nourishing and sweet, nurturing, fatty acids. And because of its sourness, will help moisten a dry vata constitution. The fiber will keep vata people regular. But the coldness of acai can be vata aggravating. Meanwhile, that same coldness is pacifying to pitta. Where vata has deficiency, pitta is not as deficient, but is more hot. So pitta can get inflammation easily. Well, the cooling effect of acai is supportive to reduce the heat of pitta. And finally, acai will aggravate kapha in excess, but also because of its fiber, the sweetness is tempered and it's not as aggravating to kapha as one might think. What is kapha? Kapha is the body type that tends to have more stagnation in their fluids and thick, rich fluids, maybe with some weight gain. And so acai won't aggravate that too much. But if you're eating a lot of it, of course, if you eat a bunch of sugar, that's going to eventually aggravate your kapha. All right, acai is not advised for people with candida because the natural sugars feed bacteria and fungus like candida. So if you're having an outbreak of that, you might want to pull back a little bit on something sweet like candida. And some of the other contraindications I've already gave. There is a parasite that lives on acai, but so if you're going to the Amazon and eating acai, you have to be careful of it. But in the processed ones, it is much less common. Acai is also high in potassium, like bananas. So just be a little careful if you have renal issues and can't tolerate potassium. All right, good. This has been a very brief introduction to some of the biocharacteristics of acai, some of the effects that you can experience, or when you experiencing them, you can sort of start to know what the pharmacological effects are. If you have a bitter and then you notice your eyes are more relaxed, it's probably a cooling bitter that cleanses the liver. But if it's sweet, you know it's also going to nourish the liver a bit. And that's exactly what we find with acai. We could predict that from our five senses. Ayurveda excels in the ability to intuit food, especially once we know some of the anatomy and physiology behind it. We can really start to understand how food affects us pharmacologically, and navigate this even without a textbook next to us, right? With just our five senses. It's a skill that we really work hard to, intuition is something that we really work hard to develop in our clinical study in the course. So I want to thank all of you for attending today's talk, and I'm going to break for questions in just a bit, but I also want to offer all of you who made it through to the end of this presentation a $750 scholarship for those who register after the call within the next 5 days. That would give us till Friday or Saturday. Let's see, what's 5 days? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would give us till Sunday to register to claim that $750 scholarship to either our 2-year course in Ayurveda fundamentals or our 1-year course in Ayurveda digestion and nutrition. Now, the Ayurveda digestion nutrition course is a specialization course for a track for people who want to go deep and get an advanced education in digestive health, digestive tract pathology, and Ayurvedic nutrition. And the 2-year course is much broader. We can't get to the same depth in digestive ailments in the 2-year course, in that specialization course. But instead, in the 2-year course, we're going to cover broad fundamentals over the entire body, giving you a great, intense, vigorous foundation in Ayurveda's model of balance and disease, and just the entire Ayurveda model or theory of health. So both of those courses, very exciting, challenging, but rewarding courses where we will go in depth into disease pathology and the restoration of balance and vitality in health.